Hey everybody, this is Toby Eunice with the Gypsy Kiss. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to spend the evening talking all about the things Fenn. And you can chat in the chat room, or you can send a text message to 1-800-947-1043. Or if you're up for it, call. Let's have a conversation. Hey guys, so honestly, I've had another good Friday, so I'm in very good spirits. Glad to see you. Oh, hi, K-Pro. K-Pro in the room. Shelly K. Oh, Shelly Carney. Hi. How are you doing? Sacro, Goldilocks, Amy Smith's in the room, Illinois Ghost, Deborah Jensen. So, gosh, I've just had a tremendous day, a lot of fun. And I hope we can just kind of run that into tonight. So our objective for these shows is to talk about Forrest Fenn, his treasure, the treasure that he hid somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe. Talk about Forrest Fenn, the individual. I will do my best tonight to call him Forrest rather than Fenn, as he asked Mike for us to do. And if I slip every once in a while, just kind of bear with me. But I'll do my best, like I said. The idea here is just for us to talk. You can discuss these things in the chat room, of course. I've got my eye on the chat room right now, and of course, my partner, Shelly Carney's in there under the auspices of Shelly Carney Productions. Also, I have my cell phone in front of me, and you can reach me there by dialing 1-800-947-1043. And you can also call. So later on, let me turn on the call. So the call line is open, and Shelly Carney is asking me, how was the RV show? I went to an RV show with a good friend of mine, Janet Bridgers. We've done a couple of documentaries together, so I may have mentioned her in the past. But she's been thinking about an RV, and I've been thinking about an RV, and we're thinking about a cooperative where we have several people who want to invest in an RV. But what I was surprised about today was how low the prices have come down, especially for some of the smaller Class A RVs, which are the kind of fully integrated, built from scratch RVs. The prices are way, way down. And I was very excited to see that. And the features and the technology, and I mean, it's just amazing. You could live in one of the things if you so desired. So that was a lot of fun for both of us. So let's get to a couple of things. So here's how the show is going to go tonight. I've got some messages and voicemails that I've got to address early on. And then we'll start taking as a matter of fact, you know what? While I'm doing this, let me go back. Didn't mean to do that. Give me a second here. So let me go back and turn the phone line off. And the reason is I've got some voicemails I don't play. So I'll open up the phone lines in just a minute. You can send a text and you can leave a voicemail as of right now, but I'll open them up in a while. So let me play the stuff and read the text messages that I already have. And then I think what we'll do is we'll open it up, go to the chat room, go to the text messages, start talking about all things Forrest Fenn. And then what I'd like to do is finish up with something that a gentleman whose name is Bard's Magic, who's been in the room several times this week, and he's asked about the origin story for A Gypsy's Kiss. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, it's a long story, and you know how much I love to tell stories. It literally started with the death of my father when I was age 11. But I've decided that I'm going to tell that story because I'd like to document it. And Shelley was very much in favor of me telling that story because she's heard it more than once, actually. So I'm going to tell that story, but I'm going to reserve that for the last block in tonight's show, so that if you're not interested in hearing the story, by that time the conversation about Forrest Fenn and all the questions Q&A we had gone through. So I'll save that for the last half hour of the show. All right, but we're going to talk about the origin of A Gypsy's Kiss, and as a teaser, I can tell you that it involves New Orleans at Mardi Gras, a young woman who turned out to be a prostitute, and a two-story jump into the Mississippi River. How's that? So that's going to be a fun story. Okay, who else is in the room? Joel Lewicki's in the room. Joel, I understand that there's a chance we might see you in New Mexico. I don't know if it's going to be this season or not, but we look forward to seeing you nonetheless. Okay, so let me take care of some voicemails first. Make sure audio is on for the voicemail. So let's listen to the voicemails, and then I'll go to the texts, and then we'll go to the room, okay? So let's see what we've got here.
Hello. Good afternoon, Toby and Shelley. This is Tom Hardy. You got my number, I believe. Calling from Florida. I think that meets all your requirements. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to disclose. My question is, Fenn in an interview one time was asked, he was asked by the interviewer, will you tell me where the home of Brown is? And he said, no, if I did that, you would go straight to the treasure. So my question is, does anybody have know of any corrections Forrest might have made on that? Or is he saying that if you know where home of Brown is, you will go straight to the treasure? And like, there's nothing else required. So just like to hear your thoughts. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So that's an interesting question. That was from Tom Harding. And where did he say he was from? Florida. So Tom, he did say that. He's made a couple of comments regarding the dimensions from the dimensions of the search area. And that was certainly one of them. He did say something very much like that. I'm always hesitant to quote him because I don't have it in front of me, but I do recall a quote very similar to that, if not exactly as you quoted it. The other thing that he said is that if you've gotten to where warm water's halt, and again, I'm paraphrasing, don't cite this as a quotation. If you've gotten to where warm waters halt, you're halfway to the treasure, metaphorically speaking. And both of those statements to me are an indication of the distance, how small the distance between clue 1 and clue 9 is, as he stated in the poem. And I think what he meant by saying that if you can find the home of Brown, you are within that very small dimension that represents the search area, and it is very likely that you can look around and perhaps see the following clues from that point. That's always how I've interpreted it. That's always how I've interpreted the statement about if you're at warm waters halt, you're more than halfway to the treasure, metaphorically speaking, and that's just a sense of distance, right? If you're there and you've come all the way from New Mexico, for example, and you happen to be in Yellowstone at the correct definition of warm waters halt, not that I'm saying that the correct definition of warm waters. Well, of course, you're metaphorically speaking, you're more than halfway to the treasure. But each of those, to me, has always been an indication of the small distance between clue 1 and clue 9. And I'll say it again, we think you can see in our solution, we think it is possible to see the next clue, whatever the next clue is from wherever you're at. So if you're at clue 1, it is very likely to me you've got a good indication of where clue 2 is, and when you're at clue 2, clue 3, etc., etc. And I think that's what he meant by that, if you can find the home of Brown. Now, the even more interesting implication of that is let's say, for example, you've got beginning where warm water's hauled, taken to the canyon down, not far but too far to walk, and you're at what effectively is the fourth clue put in below the home of Brown. So the next clue, according to Fenn, is from there it's no place for the meek. So if you can be at home of Brown and figure out where the treasure is it possible that you could be where no place for the meek is and find the treasure, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So is that an indication that he's always said that you have to follow them, they're in consecutive order, and you have to follow them in order. You have to find where warm water's halt and go from there. But the implication of what he said in the quote that you cited is that, well, if you've gotten to the home of Brown, you might be close enough to the treasure that you could see the series of clues, at least the next clue. And then when you're at that clue, the clue after that, et cetera, et cetera. That's how we've always taken it. So that's my opinion. Remember, I started the program as usual with our disclaimer. These are all opinions, right? Let's see. So I had one more voicemail. Oops. Well, it's from my friend Davio. All right. So I'm not sure if this is a question or not, but let's...
Well, hello there, Gypsy Kissers. This is Davio22 out here in California. Currently, today, I am in Sausalito on a beautiful day working on a rich guy's house putting in cameras. So my question is, am I understanding that there is going to be some sort of treasure hunt TV show? Is this the pilot you're referring to? Or is this somebody else's idea of a TV show pilot that's based around treasure hunting? I'm very curious. What is all this about? Please give us a clue. Dave's a little late today, sorry. So thanks very much, Gypsy Kissers, and have a good time. Cheers.
All right. So let's talk about that. If you go to our blog, I actually, and that's gypsykiss.com, I actually made a post regarding this subject. And it's not a post in the sense that I wrote about it. What I did is I give you a link to the website that provided this information. According to the website, and I'm sure that Shelley has a much better sense of this because she was closer to the film industry than I was. I was a documentarian, but Shelley came right out of the film industry, went into the film industry and came out of the film industry. So there, in the link that I provided at gypsykiss.com, there's a story there indicating that, so whatever a pilot, even a pilot, is put together, it's not just one group of people. It's a conglomerate of different corporations, different LLCs, different individuals, all of whom are banding together to get this pilot launched. It sounded to me like the basis for the pilot was a book that has yet arrived on the shelves, written by David Kushner. That name should sound familiar to you because David was the writer. He's generally a freelancer, but he wrote the article that about Fenn and the Forrest and the treasure that appeared in Wired magazine a couple of months ago. David has gone on, apparently, to start writing a book. I don't know how far along it is, but I do know that he spent some time here in Santa Fe. He's talked to searchers. He's talked to us. He talked to searchers in Yellowstone because he was up there during that, I think, if I recall correctly, the June weekend at which we were celebrating Fennbury in Santa Fe. Cynthia Meacham organized a similar event in or about Yellowstone. And he was at that. He was there for that. So he's written a book, and apparently he's found a producer who's indicated an interest in the book, and they did something called a put. They put together what's referred to in the industry as a pitch, and a pitch is a way something that you create so that you can go to people with money and tell them that you have an interesting story and find out whether or not they would be interested in supporting the eventuality of that story becoming film. So there's this big conglomerate of smaller organizations, producers, directors, Kushner as a writer, other organizations that provide other resources and assets, and they did a pitch, and that pitch was placed as a put. And a put is a bid, basically. It's something that you can say to these different organizations that ultimately would have to agree to produce this, that there's something out there that actually comes out of the financial industry. So apparently what the story says is that Fox has accepted the put, and they're going to enter into discussions to do something. And they were very... let me see, what's the best way to describe it? They were very, let's see. They were very nondescript about exactly what it was going to look like. It sounded like a drama of approximately 1 hour. They said it was a film, but to me, when you're going to do a 1 hour drama for an organization like Fox, the implication is you're pitching a pilot for a series. And the series very specifically said it was going to be a story about a family that moves someplace from the Midwest, I think they said Chicago, to Montana. They had met with hard times, and they were going to go to Montana and look for this treasure. And that's the storyline, and it has gotten to the point at which Fox has accepted the put. Now, there is no guarantees that this will ever be produced just based on that, but it made it to the entertainment media. That's where this article appeared. So at least we know there is a book that's being written on the topic by a credible writer. His name is David Kushner, who wrote the article for Wired magazine a couple of months ago, and that there is a conglomerate of media companies working towards the production, the eventual production of what they're describing as a 1 hour long drama. I think the word pilot is used, I can't remember the article, but I think the word pilot is used in the article, but it strikes me that that is far more reasonable a result, a 1 hour pilot that you test with audiences to determine whether or not there's something here. So I can also tell you that the time between where we are right now, where a put is placed, and that actually appearing on the air can be months, if not a year, right? It's a long time to get through that process. But at least it's out there. If nothing else, it sounds like we're going to get a book out of it from Kushner, because because he's a freelancer, he wouldn't be writing a book if he didn't have a publisher who had already seen a proposal on it. And it sounds to me like if you're going through the trouble of writing a book that's gotten all the way to the put stage, you probably have a publisher that's going to agree to publish the book. So I hope that answers everybody's question without creating additional confusion. So again, it's hard for me to watch the chat room. So if you have a question direct for me that you want me to respond to, make sure you send it to 1-800-943-1047. All right, let me get a couple more of these. Okay, so this is one more. Let me see. All right. Oh, so that isn't... I'm just going to try and see if I can find the voicemails first, and we'll do those first, then we'll go back to the questions. Okay, so that's it in terms of voicemails. Let's go to the questions. The first question I have tonight is, Toby and Shelley, I enjoy watching your presentations on the chase. So a couple of things, folks. If you're sending me a text message, make sure you tell me what your name is, at least your first name, so that start with your first name and the location from which you are writing. Toby and Shelley, I enjoy watching your presentations on the chase. You both have a great amount of style and complement each other extremely well, almost perfectly. The warm waters halt. The where warm waters halt to me is odd. To me, it makes more sense that cold water halts and warm water begins. But I guess a small and shallow body of water flowing into something larger would fit that clue. Anyway, I'm new to the chase with no boots on the ground, and and know your thoughts on that. Maybe he's asking if he wants to know our thoughts. Hank, if you lack the tools to decode what Forrest is saying in all of these things, then you have to start with what he said. He said, begin it where warm waters halt. Decode that first. I almost said decall that first. Decode that first. And then once you've decoded it, you can start thinking about whether or not he meant, where cold water begins, right? So you don't want to start changing the words in the poem without decoding them first, and then perhaps after that performing analysis to determine if you have something else there. But if you start by changing the words in his poem, if you change the words in his poem from begin it where warm waters halt to start it where cold waters begin, or whatever words you choose to do that, you're cheating yourself. There's a good possibility that you're already cheating yourself out of a solution that has any kind of potential at all. Okay? So, let's see. But thank you for the compliments. That was very kind. Question from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, across the river from Detroit. I feel like I've read this before. Oh, it's from Monday. Okay. My name is Paul, and I was wondering what your take on Fenn's quote, shut your engine off until spring, unquote. What he means, Paul, is that it's a warning to be safe. What he's suggesting is that once the snows start in the mountains, the Rocky Mountains, it's not wise. You're creating additional risk for yourself by going into the areas where there's snow and eventually a pack, and then as it melts, mud. So all he's saying, as far as I can tell, is that you ought to not take any risks like going up into the mountains until the snow has melted in the spring. Let's see. Okay, we answered that. We answered Davio. So I'm going to open up the phone lines again here while I'm reading these text messages. So let me do that real quick. Hola. There we go. Come on, iPhone, cooperate there with me, baby. Okay, so this says, this is Jerry Harris from Waco, Texas. Waco. Why do I feel like I know that? It's near Fort Hood. Hi, Toby. I would like your thoughts on a question I have about... I like your thought. I would like your thoughts about a question I have about warm waters. Ooh, warm waters is the topic of the evening, huh? Fenn used the New Mexico... He said Fenn. I didn't say Fenn. Fenn used the New Mexico water and fishing regulations term warm waters. He also, in an interview, mentioned hot springs to cold water is too simple. Hot springs to cold water. I'm not sure what he means by that. If this is too simple, he used this term only common in New Mexico to divert searchers to New Mexico, away from Montana, Wyoming, or Colorado. I don't think it was intentional. If there was anything that Forrest would have used to divert searchers to New Mexico away from other states, it would have been the comment that preceded the poem where he says, I hid it somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe. That's right. And the effect that had was that it diverted a lot of searchers towards northern New Mexico, far fewer than were going to, say, Yellowstone or any place north of those mountains north of Santa Fe. Then in 2013, he discovered the Rocky Mountains, and that came out on the map in Too Far to Walk. And so it expanded the search area almost radically and immediately from northern New Mexico to the total of the 4 search states that in which the Rocky Mountains are encompassed. So I don't think it was intentional to divert. You've got to remember that, Jerry, you've got to remember that he only published 1,000 copies of The Thrill of the Chase, and they are all going to be sold at the Collected Works bookstore in Santa Fe. So one of the things that Shelley and I have said very often is that I think he underestimated the popularity that this book, the story, would achieve over time. And I think we can all point back to the story that Margie Goldstein Margie Goldstein wrote, that appeared in the Hemispheres magazine, because it had the effect of turning it into a virus, and it traveled all over the world. And suddenly there were immense numbers of the 1,000 people that had bought the book woke up one morning to find out that this had become a media topic that had spread all over the world. So I don't think he was necessarily diverting people away from those 3 other states, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana, as much as he just figured it was going to be a little New Mexico search for the 1,000 people, the 1,000 of his friends in Santa Fe that bought the book. So let's see. Oh, long question. So, hello, Toby. I watched the show last Friday. Ready Player One was awesome. So you started reading my question on the show about if Forrest had mentioned any use of alcohol to suppress pain, etc., but then got a call and forgot about it. LOL. Lol. I said lol. It was exciting to see someone watch on YouTube read something that was mine. Here's the question again. Did Forrest ever mention him taking alcohol with him when he buried the treasure, or suggest that we should take alcohol when we go searching, or did he ever mention him using alcohol to suppress pain? I seem to remember him mentioning that if we were adventurous like him, we would take a 6-pack of beer or something like that. Thanks again. Ted? You have read a lot more into Forrest Fenn statements than I've ever read into them. Here's what you have to remember. In 1988, Forrest had a bout with kidney cancer. He gave up one kidney. In my experience, people that lose one kidney to cancer, their doctors would really get mad if they found out that they were drinking any kind of alcohol. So I couldn't tell you for certain. I don't know Forrest well enough to tell you whether or not he drinks at all, but I'm going to assume, based on what I know about the removal of a kidney and the resulting impact on your metabolism, the likelihood that Forrest I'm going to be struggling with this all night. The likelihood that Forrest drinks alcohol at all or ever since 1988 is slim to none. So I hope you're just as happy about me mentioning that as I did. Let's see. This is from 210. So 210, send me your name and where you're from, because you didn't include it in here. It says, I see a key in pictures of the treasure chest. Where is the key now? The key is inside the treasure chest. Okay, this is from Ed from Massachusetts. He says, I didn't feel digging was necessary. Okay, so this goes back. Have you found fake blazes placed by previous searchers? God, that's an assumption. So the answer is no. But I haven't been looking for fake blazes placed by previous searchers. It would be distracting. Let's see. I asked because I found a 3-foot white melamine X spiked into the ground, a spot that made no sense. I did check under it, but it didn't feel like digging was not necessary, especially where the X was located, and it wasn't about to get arrested far from home. Okay, so Ed, so if you find the blaze and you look quickly down, and there isn't a treasure chest, then it's probably not the blaze. And if there's anything that does to you look like it's a blaze, and then you realize it looks like somebody placed it here, ignore it. Or even better, just break it apart and throw it all over the ground, because that's what I do. Okay. So, hi, Toby. This is from TobyFan3000's wife, Karen. Hi, Karen. From upstate New York. You were saying you were coming to visit your daughter upstate. Ooh. If not far from us, and you find time, it would be great to see you, and we always watch and enjoy your show. So that's Karen. Hi, Karen. So I don't know. So first of all, while I am going out to the East Coast, I'm going to spend the first week in November in Boca Raton, Florida, which is where my daughter lives and which is where we are going to celebrate the 1-year birthday of my granddaughter, Everly, who's just freaking adorable. Oh, my God. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to be far away from New York, but I promise you, if I ever find a reason to get up to New York, I love upstate, been up there especially this time of the year. It's probably beautiful at this time of the year. I'll come by to visit you guys. But no, I am going out east, but the out east is going to be way further south than where you guys are at. So here is a question from our friend Illinois Ghost, Rick McDonald. Hi, Toby. It's Illinois Ghost. Curious what your thoughts are on the eBay auction for Forrest's topographical map collection. Rick, I am embarrassed to say you're the second person that's asked me that question. And Minotaur Moreno, Justin from Dallas, Texas, asked a similar question yesterday or the night of our panel. And I mentioned that I would take the time to go look, because up until that time I hadn't even seen them. I don't know what's up for auction, and because I don't know what's up, I can't even propose an idea about why they're up for auction. So I promise everybody this, by one of our shows next week, I promise to go look. Maybe what I'll do is I'll write a blog post on it. So I promise to go look this weekend and see if I can figure out what's going on there. It's just interesting that he's decided it's time for him to start relieving himself of part of his collection. So I don't know how he makes the decision. What would be interesting to me is what is it about this point in time where he has decided to put some of his collection on eBay? I wonder who talked to him, because I don't see Forrest as an eBay kind of guy, So I wonder who talked him into that. I mean, the reason behind it, the logic behind it. So, but since I haven't seen it, I can't give you a credible answer. So I'll take a look at it when I'm this weekend, and then I'll have something better for you next week. Excuse me. You know what, guys? I left my water on the table over there, and my throat's getting dry. Give me a second while I go get that, okay? So let me turn this off so my... Okay. Whew. I was drying out there. I was drying. It was like being in the desert. Okay, so this is hello from Joe in New Mexico. Toby, are you going to continue the book? Joe's been bugging me about this for 3 days now. Joe, are you going to continue the book club now that you are finished with The Thrill of the Chase? If so, what book will you be exploring next? So, Joe, I'm sorry. I know I teased you all day today about this. Yes, we are going to continue the book club. Now, next week, I'm really dry. Next week, Shelley would be on vacation. She's heading out east. She and Kevin are heading out east to be at their daughter's wedding. So I am going to do a book club, but it's going to be an open line book club, and we're going to talk about The Thrill of the Chase, kind of a recap, Q&A, open line, lots of those things. And then the week after that, we will start, and I hope this is okay with you, we will start with the preface of Too Far to Walk and continue all the way through Too Far to Walk. And I don't know how many, there's more chapters in Too Far to Walk than there are in The Thrill of the Chase, so that ought to keep us busy for another several months. But yeah, we're going to go straight to Too Far to Walk, but not next week, the week after next. And then, as I mentioned, wow, I just thought of something. I'm going to have to look at a calendar. As I mentioned, then I'm going to be off a long weekend in Boca Raton. But yeah, we are going to go to the next book in the second memoir in his series. So this question is Joe from Florida. And Joe says, Toby, when Forrest suggests that each clue represents a geographic location, in your opinion, does that imply that each clue is a different area? would this debunk the small scale solve theory? No, it doesn't, because it doesn't necessarily, if you define a geographic location as a city, for example, well, yes, then there is no small scale solution and all that. But if you define a geographic location as the difference between where the confluence of two rivers versus a beaver dam, for lack of a better way, those are all geographic locations. So I don't think by suggesting that each clue is a geographic location means that the result is that it's a large scale solution. So no, we're very convinced, based on almost everything he's ever said, that it's a small scale solution. Okay, so now give me a chance, and I'm going to go to the chat room and see if there's anything there. Gotta scroll. Wow, there's been a lot of activity in the chat room already. So, did I open the phone lines? Okay, phone lines are open. You know what, Christy? You know what you could do is call, and I know you've made some changes / improvements to the whole silver search coin thing. So why don't you call in and let's talk about that for a little bit. I think that would be good. So Davio's in the house. Davio, were you here when I played your voicemail and gave you your answer? Let's see who else is in the room. So give me a second, because I am catching up here, okay? Phone lines are open, 1-800-947-1043. Call in. And there, see? Like on schedule.
Yeah, you rang.
So, is your audio on your computer off?
My audio is off. You should, and I have no kiddos tonight. I have an empty house, so you should hear
great.
nothing.
Yeah, this will be perfect. Okay, so I'm glad you called, and I know that based on a couple of conversations and text messages that you and I exchanged, this thing being the silver coin hunt has expanded, changed. And I know there were some other influences going on. So can you bring us up to date as of this moment in time?
Sure. Well, so the only thing that was really set in stone was there were 50 coins, and that they were going to get out to the community, and there was not going to be a profit made. They weren't going up on eBay. Mm-hmm. The idea initially was 4 search states, and Toby or AGK and Cynthia were going to be and Mike were going to kind of be the main core to get these out. But I asked for, what's your input, community? We want to hear from you. Mm-hmm. I will tell you, many people emailed Forrest, as well as myself and Mike and others, especially to me, saying, you're East Coast, why are you excluding the East Coast? And why are you excluding other search states? And some tubers have said, what about us? Could we also be a part of this? So there was a little bit of communication kind of with everybody, but that's just when I said, okay, let's expand this. I'm spending some time in Europe in spring, and so I think there is going to be some search coin or coins in Europe, and we have a whole contingent of European searchers. And then there's 3 or 4 that I know really well that I would trust to put out coins. So if you randomly email me and say, give me some coins and I'll get them out there, I don't feel that comfortable, but some people that I really know well have said, can I help? Mm-hmm. And so we have probably about, I would say at least 10 states, maybe 15 identified. But this is exactly what we were talking about. Community, tell us what you want. That was probably message after message after message. Let's get them out to more than just the 4 states, because especially if you're East Coast, you know exactly where it is. You can't get out there quick enough. So let's make this. But it will be mirrored after the hunt, so the TTOTC hunt. So we'll see what that looks like. And again, we still have several months to go. There are some other projects in work, not related to me at all, that contacted me and said, did you know we were getting ready to do this? So we want to make sure that, we don't compete and have issues. And so we're trying to work around that and just kind of hit the right strategy to make sure everybody kind of has their place. But the more that we have everybody involved, the better. So the idea is we're still going to hide, I think, a majority in the 4 search states. But California, Nevada, all of New England, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, UK, those are the just ones that come off the top of my head. I'm trying to find somebody from the Midwest right now. If not, I might take a trip out. I have some family out there. So I kind of want to hit all the different areas. So it just seems fun to do, and it'll get a lot more involved and excited. But again, there will be a Canyon or a Home of Brown or a Meek or something that really makes it still. This is definitely going to be a Forrest Fenn hunt. And then somebody asked also, can you make some of them virtual or armchair? Or at least one of them, just because they are either disabled, not able financially, and Mike's done some of those hunts before, and so he's willing to try to make one up. So we're busy this off season, and so it's all evolving. But as we say, the search community talks, and we're listening, and that's the one that I can tell you we've already adjusted. Somebody has donated a copper coin.
Wow.
So there is going to be one that when you get your silver coin, you will also have an accompaniment. Said they might want to donate something else. I don't want to get too carried away, like the Jamie drawing and it gets too much, but it's exciting. I mean, it's nice that the community is kind of coming together. I will say I've gotten many, 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 many offers about what will it take cash-wise to get the silver coins. And I will say 100% it's not possible. So please stop bribing me. I'm not going to take the bribes. So what other questions do you have, Toby, or room, or whoever?
Yeah. So let me ask on behalf of the room. So at some point, and first of all, let me say that I hope the rest of the community appreciates the fact that you made a personal investment in producing these coins. Secondly, you're investing your time in turning it into the best possible solution so it reaches the broadest number of members of the community. But I think at the same time, we have to be realistic and say, just because of the limited numbers, we're talking about 47 coins, it's not going to reach everybody. So we have to accept that part of that. The question then results, and my compliments to what you've done thus far, at what point, after all of this input that you're collecting from various sources, and then kind of metabolizing into a final solution, that we can expect to start next spring, whether it's us hiding the coins or the other members of the community looking for the coins? At what point do you feel like you will have a page worth of instructions, final instructions, rules, what you have to do? When are you planning to do that? Because I think if people know at what point, so if we talk about all this period of research, at some point you want to say, guys, if you'll give me till, and I'm making up a calendar date here, if you give me till December 1st, I will have a complete plan with a set of rules, etc., whatever you guys need to be happy. What date is that as of this moment?
I would expect by January 1st, we will have all the answers. I expect right now November to be, okay, here's all the input we got. I would head to you and Shelley and to Mike and to Cynthia and to a few others that have been kind of helpful to say, okay, let's refine. Here's a one page. What do we think now? Let's refine it a little bit. So it could be as early as November, December, but definitely by January 1st, we're going to hit January 1st with the ground running to say, here is what we're doing. So I don't think it can be any later than that, because that's when everybody's getting antsy and wanting to hear. And so I'm hoping by that time we say, here's all the states involved and countries involved, and here's kind of how we're doing it. Here's, on Monday it's going to be this, or, however many hints, and how are we going to do it? Because people are asking, what are the hints going to be like? Are they codes or ciphers or this or that? I know there's differing opinions. I'd like to actually get the search coin number out. Mike doesn't. Let's just come to, I don't care which way it goes, but let's come to consensus. So I think all of that, I would say in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I am there 1 week actually from today, and I would love to sit down with you and Shelley and have just some discussions of here's the variables, what do you think, but definitely by January 1st, that would be the absolute latest, maybe even before Christmas, so we all know, who's close enough, and and then if you're not close enough, who can you buddy up with that is close enough in case you solve it.
Mm-hmm. So I guess on behalf of Christy, what I'd like to say is let's give her till January 1st to come up with a campaign, as we used to say in the marketing world, that puts this all together and provides us the information that we require to be able to go out and, in our case, hide them, and in your case, to go out and search for them. So I'm going to... I'm going to be patient. I look forward to visiting with you when you get here in New Mexico in a couple of weeks. Shelley and I will be happy to sit down with you and give you our thoughts on the matter. And then we'll just wait till around January 1st. I mean, we can't do anything until then anyway. We'll be right in the middle of the winter season, so there's not much happening then. So we'll be patient about it.
Well, I'm looking at my area, and I got to tell you, there's still that last fall that I might just, if it's safe, go boots on the ground. And someone asked me if it is found between now and when they were supposed to come out. Are you still going to put them out? Yes, we are. We're going to put them out. I might just find the treasure by then, and I'll have a really nice RV then, rather than just a little tiny RV that you talked about earlier. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm looking at right now. You never know, but no, those coins are going to be all throughout, kind of the world at this point. But that project's moving forward no matter what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad that you took the time to call in and bring us up to date on that. I'm sure that as you continue with your Monday night show, we'll continue to get updates, and we'll just be patient and wait for you. I do need to let you know that somebody mentioned me today that we're expecting a whole bunch of snow in New Mexico starting this weekend and going into next week. So just keep an eye out for that, because I know you're going to be. Yeah.
Okay, then we got to go play poker, Toby.
Oh yeah. I've got Jason all queued in, and he's ready to sponsor a poker game for us. So.
Okay. Well,
you know
I
what?
Get boots on the ground.
Hey,
what else can we do?
So we can definitely play poker. You can take some tin lessons from Jason,
yes.
And then you can come over to my place, and I will reveal my command center living room technology to you, so that you can start implementing it on yours and Mike's show. Is Mike going to come out at the same time? Do you know?
Not the same time. If we actually have a different project,
yeah.
That if it all comes together, he will come towards the end of. I'm there for 7 days. He'll come towards the end of the visit for us to meet with Forrest. It's all still looking at coming together.
And you guys are going to base camp in Santa Fe. Is that correct?
Actually, Albuquerque. Well, the Santa Fe part. If he comes in, it's going to be Santa Fe part, definitely.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So what else you got for us?
I don't have much else. I'm racing for 1 week from now, and these projects. So, and the Raven's Nest is just, we're having a blast. So we'll have a new topic on Monday, and we'll put out some sort of teaser, I hope, in the next day or two. But we're having fun.
Well, we look forward to watching you on the Raven's Nest. So,
well, thank you.
All right, ma'am. Thanks very much for calling in, and thanks for providing that information on the coin project. And we'll look forward to regular updates from you, and we'll hold our horses until around January 1st, because, like I said, we can't do anything until then anyway. All right?
Sounds great.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Night all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Christy from K-Pro. So I did get a missed call from 218. 218 wanted to try your call again. And because if you're calling when I'm on the phone, I can't take a second call We're not quite that sophisticated. 23 Monarcha. I swear I am going to take your quotes and I'm going to turn them into some kind of biblical tome, because the stuff you say, if you just write it down, it's like biblical. So I just think it's good. That's a compliment. I'm not being facetious. So this is from Toby Fan 3000's wife, Karen. Oh, I'll come back to that in just a second. Hold on. Caller, give me just a second to finish this comment that I started. And while I'm doing that, you can turn off your audio, okay? Just give me a second.
Got it.
Okay, so let me go back to this comment from Karen while we've got that caller on hold. So Karen here again, Toby Fann's 3000's wife. Yes, it was beautiful here. Wanted to share. Yeah, I know that area. The upstate New York during the fall, because of all the deciduous foliage, is just beautiful. As is most of the. I raised my family in Northern Virginia, and driving down to D.C. during the fall was just an amazing experience. Okay, let's take our call here. Okay, caller, can you hear me okay?
I sure can, Toby. It's Joel from northern Minnesota.
Joel from northern Minnesota. How fun is that? How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well.
Yeah.
I'm actually at work, multitasking, watching your stream, because now, of course, you stream on Friday nights.
Yeah. Well, I do.
What am I going to do?
Yeah. Well, if you're at work, it's the least you can do to find a distraction. So, did I see something on Facebook that you've just gone to a new firm, a partnership in a new firm? Is that right?
I did. I went from an associate to a partner position with the same firm.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, congratulations.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
A partnership in a law firm is a great place to be and finish out a law career. Although I imagine you have a lot of years to go.
I've got a few. Yeah.
Yeah. Congratulations.
And here's why I'm calling.
Okay.
So I made a comment Wednesday night in the chat room, and I want to clear that up.
Oh, okay.
Because people took it to mean that I was currently on the road to New Mexico. I am not on the road to New Mexico. People, settle down. My point is that I've begun considering thinking outside the box, other options for the connections that I see to places that were important to Forrest in his childhood, possibly to what may be the end of his rainbow, and that's where he spent the later part of his life. So that's all. That's what I'm saying. Everybody settle down.
All right. So it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you've invested some time in searching the northern part of the search area, including around Yellowstone, correct?
The part that I understand is now closed. Thank you, Forrest.
Yeah. And you're considering actually putting boots on the ground in the form of a recon in New Mexico. But that's not going to happen until
I have some work to do prior to going boots on the ground down there. And by that I mean I have never really looked anywhere other than my original search area. So there's a lot of things that need to be done there. And for anyone that's ever transitioned search areas, you become very closed-minded to other possibilities because you want your area to be correct. So I have some rethinking to do, I think, maybe.
Well, we can empathize as we've gone through that process of, looking at a solution, investing as much as we possibly could in terms of time, effort, and money, not coming up with anything, and having to choose. But when you make a choice, it's not as easy as saying, well, I'm going from Montana to New Mexico. You really have to sit down and decide what is it that would cause you to make that investment. What do you know about what's out there that would say, look, it's not a drive from Minnesota, not that I to dismiss the drive from Minnesota to say Montana or Yellowstone, because I know that took you some time. But I'm starting to imagine the drive from Minnesota to New Mexico it's vacation time. Bring the kids, right? Because you're going to be gone for a while. So how much time?
Yeah.
how much time did you
Yeah, it's a
spend
ways.
In your last recon?
I was there. I had 4 days boots on the ground.
Right. I kind of remember it was unusually long in the sense that you were spending some time there, and we were getting regular
For
updates.
me, it was, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess I want
And the thing, I mean, I have enough footage for probably a really boring feature-length film.
from that last recon.
Very anticlimactic.
Yeah. That it ends with, and I didn't find the treasure. Yeah, we actually got to the point where I think we were at the Taos box, the bridge, the John Dunn Bridge, and that was before the Forrest had said that the Rio Grande is not in the Rocky Mountains, but we had done the same thing. We literally just shot a bunch of footage. We went back for a second trip to get additional footage, and then we were driving back that one day, and I said to Shelley, we didn't find the treasure. How many of these videos can we possibly make where the result is we didn't find the treasure? Because we're starting to make, we've got a collection of these babies now. So I know how you're feeling. I know the feeling
Yep.
of, what is it? The walk of shame. Well, I am. Is that what? What's her name? Courtney Roberts. I think she calls it the walk of shame. Coming back, not having found the treasure.
That's perfect.
And she was out. She's been out recently. She was making a trip to kind of Wyoming that was like her do or die trip. That if she didn't return with the treasure, her husband had said like, okay, this is it. So no.
Well, that just means she's not going to tell him when she goes this time.
And she's got to come all the way from Alaska. So that's a heck of a trip. So how? So I guess I have to ask. How is your family responding to the idea that one solution has been archived, but there is another solution that has potential, but it's another, 1,500-mile drive, 900-mile drive?
I'm really bad with distances.
Yeah.
As I've said, it's probably around 4,000 or 5,000 miles.
Uh-huh.
I may be overestimating.
That'll put you into central Mexico at that point.
But the road may not be direct.
Yeah, exactly. So what do they think about that?
Well, and I will be honest, though. We may have one last thing to rule out before making the complete shift.
Mm-hmm.
I have at least opened my mind to other possibilities.
Oh, well, good. So there are other things, but it sounds like whatever you had been working on to this point is now archived.
Almost.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
I had hoped that I would go to New Mexico. It would just be bringing the chest there to Forrest.
Nice. That would have been a nice trip.
Yeah, that would have been a great trip. Yeah.
Well, first of all, that should you ever find yourself in New Mexico, northern New Mexico, let us know so that we can visit and have some lunch or some dinner. Okay. All right. We're looking forward to that as well. And then, of course, we look forward now that you're not so busy with the search area, although I imagine if you're working on a Friday night because now you're a partner, we look forward to getting you back on the panels. I know I sent out the invitations, and you had been busy with a lot of other things. So we look forward to you being able to participate in some of those panels we're having because we're having a great time with them.
I do too. I look forward to that. Hopefully, in the next 4 or 5 years, I can get back into that.
All right. Well, let us.
Hey, one last shout out to the room.
Yeah.
You guys are great. Have a good night. I'll hang up and take your answer to this question off the air.
Off the air. I was hoping that you'd say that because I hear that so many times on radio shows. Just a quick question, and I'll take it off the air.
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Right, exactly. Yeah. All right, Joel. Well, thank you for calling. Have a good evening. Our best to your family, and we look forward to your visit to New Mexico, Shelley and I.
You too, friend.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, Joel Lewicki. Fun call from Joel. Lines are open. So you can call in. Let me take a couple of text messages here. Jared from Texas, JT on YouTube. Toby in Tea with Olga. Fenn mentions 4 colors, red, black, white, and green. Have you tried matching these colors with locations on a map to form a search area? Can you offer any advice on how best to pursue this strategy, triangulation, plotting? JT, we did try that when we looked at that chapter. The problem with the triangulation is that you can find geographic locations for each of those and a geographic location for T. The problem is the spread between them. So there was 2 things. Number one, there was this huge spread between them, and secondly, there was no symmetry to the solution. So when you triangulate, one of the benefits of triangulation is, and we did a video on this of triangulation, is that there is a symmetry to it. If you don't have that triangulation symmetry, it's not going to make any sense. If you end up with the equivalent of a star drawn by a 2-year-old, then there's no symmetry to that. And so it's very difficult to turn it into anything. And that's what we kept ending up with. We kept ending up with a shape that had absolutely no symmetry to it. So, but it was a fun exercise. I recommend everybody do that. So let me make a quick note here. Okay, so phone lines are open. The night is young. Another half hour before we start telling the origin story for A Gypsy's Kiss. We had another call from Joe from Florida. I have a question regarding the new crowd-solving movement. Ooh, I don't know if that's actually a movement quite yet. So let's see. I have a question regarding the new crowd-solving movement. If a member of the search community were to offer up a correct solve to a clue or clues, would that searcher have a legitimate legal claim to a portion of the treasure if another searcher were to use their solve or a portion thereto to ultimately find the chest? Should this be a concern? So we talked to an attorney about this, whether or not a searcher providing a solution without being solicited for a solution has any right. The simple fact, and here's what the attorney explained to us. The simple fact of the matter is there are enough people searching for this treasure that if you were the one to find the treasure, there is going to be more than, and these are his words, not mine. There is going to be more than one person that will claim that you used one or more parts of their solution to find the treasure, and therefore they are entitled to part of it. His response to that is you can expect, or his advice to us is you can expect that to happen, which is why we, if you'll watch our video, have decided not to disclose the location of the find. But he also suggested that 2 other things. Number one, that person has no claim, and Joel's in the room, and I'm not going to ask him for legal advice because that's not for him, but as it was explained to us, anybody claiming that they are entitled to the treasure because they had shared a solution or put a solution or mentioned a solution or included it in a crowd solving, etc., they have no claim to the treasure. The only person that has a claim to the treasure is the person who is in possession of the treasure. That's how it was explained to us. But on the other hand, we have said in the past, we have asked searchers not to share your solutions with us. We don't get as many as we used to. I think we've said it enough times that perhaps people are taking advice. See, look at 23 Monarcha. Only the person who finds the treasure can claim it as theirs. Doesn't that sound like you want to write that into a book and then start categorizing them by the kind of advice he's giving us? 23 Monarcha, there's some money in there somewhere with your typewritten statements. I think they're really fun to read. When I go back, I always go back to read the chat room after a show just to see what's going on, and I always go like, I am going to just take this stuff and turn it into a book. So where was I? So we tell searchers, we ask searchers not to share their solutions with us because it would compromise our solution should we ever find the treasure, and because we're actively looking for the treasure. We're not out here just making YouTube videos. You saw a summer's worth of recons where we're basically telling you this is where we... Okay, so here's a good example. We spent a summer's worth of recons, recording a summer's worth of recons, telling people where we were looking for our treasure, right? So imagine, and for some reason there's a lot of people headed for northern New Mexico, right? So imagine this. Imagine that people then went and found a treasure and announced that it was found somewhere around the Rio de los Pinos. Could Shelley and I make a claim to it? Well, you could make a claim to it. You can actually make that claim. And you might even be able to get it to court. But in court, what a good attorney is going to do is say you don't have a claim because you're not in possession. And you know, in our case, you shared your solution with the whole world. And that implies some kind of intent, that you actually had an intention, because that's, if I was an attorney, that's what I would do. I would say, it looks to me, excuse me, I don't know why my throat is so dry tonight. So it looks to me like your intent was to share your location so that should the treasure be found in or around that location, you could make a claim to it. That's not going to hold up. I don't, according to my attorney, that kind of activity is not going to hold up in court. So the answer to your question is no. I don't think you can make a claim to it. So did I hear you say, another question, did I hear you say Forrest Fenn said the Rio Grande is not in the Rocky Mountains? If so, then please direct us to this quote. Kisses, share. Share, that's what Terry Scant is for. The quote was not precise, but I think it was after last year's loss of Paris Wallace in the Rio Grande. Fenn put out, at the request of the New Mexico State Police, if I remember correctly, he put out something that he said, I'm not going to give you clues where to find the treasure. I'm going to give you clues to be safe. And one of the clues that he gave is the Rio Grande is not in the Rocky Mountains. So you're going to have to look it up in that context. But it was last year after the death of Paris Wallace, and he was taking a lot of flack over it, especially from the commander of the New Mexico State Police Department at the time, and he worked out an agreement that he would do this. And I think it's published on Dale's site someplace. You can find the exact quote on Dale's site. Okay, let's see what else we got. So Fennlines, the Fenn line is open. The 1-800 line is open if you want to call in and talk. This would be a good time to do that. Let's see what's going on in the room. Let's see. Treasure lawyer. Yeah. So in the chat room, TobyFan 3000. Did you or Toby find the name of that retired treasure lawyer name that contested the existence of the treasure chest? Yes, we did. As a matter of fact, Joe kept bugging me about it until I actually found it. His name is John M. Kleberg, and I think I downloaded his paper. He's got a. Let me take a look off screen here for just a second. And oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want the task manager. I wanted the desktop. Oh. Hold on. Task manager's going to have to... So give me 1 second while you guys are... So his name is John M. Kleberg. He's an attorney in New York City. I have his curriculum vitae. And I have a PDF file. Let's see if I can find it here. So the PDF file, oh, no, that's not PDF file. So his name is John M. Kleberg, Esquire. He lives at 430 East 50, so works 430 East 56th Street, apartment 8F, New York City. His email is jmk291@nyu.edu. That's what I have on here. So he talks about his education, but the paper that you want to look for that I was able to download is, hang on, The Law and Practice Regarding Coin Fines, United States Laws Concerning the Trade in Cultural Property. And he wrote that for the Conseil International de Numismatique, Compte Rendu 57. So then there is a second paper, The Law and Practice Regarding Coin Fines, Treasure Trove Law in the United States, Commission International de Numismatique, in 2006. So those are the two papers that he had written. And as I mentioned, I actually contacted him. Hang on. Caller, just give me a second to finish this comment, okay? So I had, and caller, do me a favor and turn your volume off. So when I discovered this research, I actually contacted Mr. Kleberg via email and asked him if he would care to appear on one of our, this is when we just first started live streaming, and I asked him if he'd be interested in participating in one of our programs, and he not only refused, and this was via email, he not only refused, but he suggested that he wouldn't do it because he felt like the whole Fenn treasure was a hoax. And so he was very negative and not very happy that I don't want to say he wasn't happy that I contacted him, but he did respond very negatively to my suggestion that he should come on and talk to us. So that's who it was, and you can go from there, do a little research and find it. You have as much information as I had when I started. How's that? Okay, so who's this, and where are you calling from?
Hi, Toby. It's Susie, and I'm calling from Minnesota.
Our second caller from Minnesota just sprinkled fairy dust all over the room. How did you manage that? All right, so...
Yes, it's me.
So what are you calling about? Tell me what you got for us tonight.
Well, with all the talk of the coins and the hiding the coins, and anyway, that got me thinking. The other day, I had discovered that one of the coins on top of the pile of the picture on the cover of the Thrill of the Chase is actually a picture of Queen Elizabeth, and it's the same as on a Canadian dime, or probably all sorts of Canadian money, but I don't know. And then when you look at that picture, you see another coin with another lady face facing her, and that's Queen Victoria. And that got me thinking about borderline biddies. And the whole idea of the... you know what, Toby? I can hear my echo, and it's not coming from me.
All right,
but
hold on.
I can hear me
hold
at
on.
your house.
Let's try that. Let me make a quick little adjustment. Is that any better? Talk to me. Now, you don't have your computer on, is that correct?
Okay, let's see.
Do you have your computer?
No, I'm not even in the same...
Oh, that's interesting. So let me turn
I
this
can hear it.
down as much. So that's called the aux send. So let me turn it down. Is that any better?
Let's see. Oh, yes, that's a lot better.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. So.
Oh, then all of a sudden I heard it again.
Oh, well, it's because I wasn't talking.
I will just ignore it and keep talking, okay?
All right, please do.
Okay. I was researching Sitting Bull, and then found that after when Custer fell at Little Bighorn, Sitting Bull went to Canada, and they were with his people, and it was there for 4 years before he came back. and that was, he called that land, they referred to that land as the grandmother land because of Queen Victoria or whatever. And it's really it's really hard now. I lost because I can hear my echo. I just lost my train. Okay, what about the coins?
So let me make a suggestion.
So that coin pile.
Just hold it away from your ear and talk like you're talking into a microphone. That'll help.
Okay, great. That's a great idea. Okay, I will. That coin pile, I noticed that all the coins on there, they're female rulers, which ties me back to the whole, the actual chest, and the chest has that scene of the all-female castle that the attack of the Castle of Love. But it was female that had the castle that were trying to fend off the attack. And so it's like, I don't know, but the borderline biddies had me thinking about the rulers, had me thinking about the queen, had me thinking about how Fenn's reverence for, and respect for women. And, I don't know. That's all I got, Toby. That's it.
Well, that's enough. So we have something to think about. You've done some additional research. I believe you put out a video this week regarding this topic. Is that correct?
Yes, I did, but I can't assume that anybody even watches those.
Well, so here's what I can do. I will strongly recommend that if you have an interest in determining whether or not what Susie has suggested here has any potential, then go to her channel, and her channel is RF Heckey, Heckey or Y?
Hecky.
Right. And I know she produced a video on this topic, so you might just go over there and take a look at that video and see what she's got to say on it, and maybe you can incorporate it into your solution. How's that?
Yeah, it might be another rabbit hole, but I never thought of the borderline biddies, as anything beside a state border or a park border. I never thought of it as, wait a minute, the Queen is at the border, and we are Lady Liberty is at the border.
So maybe there's something there, you think?
I don't know. Yeah, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
that's it. That's all I got.
One way to find out. Thanks for joining us tonight. Thanks for the call. And I hope you get some views on your video.
Okay. Thanks, Toby.
Bye-bye. RF Heckey. Did I see my friend Cal Lazarus coming into the room, or was I just making that up? Where is he? Oh, yeah, he's in the room. Hey, Cal Lazarus, here. That is my Cal Lazarus greeting, huh? Okay, phone lines are open. I do have a comment. Let me see. Okay. So this is from Anon in Florida. I asked you this before, but you got sidetracked. I know that's a bad thing. I do get sidetracked easy. Why did Fenn say, when talking about the girl from India, that he wish he had another chest to hide in the Appalachians when the range is actually the Himalayas? Mistake, hint, or nothing? No, I don't think. I think he was trying to make a completely different point, and the point was not necessarily that he wished that he had a treasure to hide for our little girl in India. His point was that he wished he had a treasure to hide in more places than the Rocky Mountains, so other people wouldn't have to travel to enjoy the pleasure of looking for his treasure. I think that's all he meant there. I don't think it was necessarily confusing. Fenn is a well-traveled traveled individual, so I'm sure he wasn't confusing the Appalachians with the Himalayas. So I think he was just implying that he wished he had, 10 treasures to hide in all the major mountain ranges throughout the world, so that other people could look for them and experience the thrill of the chase. I think that's all it was. Okay, phone lines are open, 1-800-947-1043. That's 1-800-947-1043. Call me, let's talk. So it's been fun. So at another 10 minutes, and I'm going to give you guys fair warning that in 10 minutes I will start. I don't know if it's going to take a whole half hour. I kind of remember this story taking a long time, but I'm going to tell you the story of the origin of a Gypsy's Kiss and why I used that. And I'm also going to advise you that a Gypsy's Kiss is actually the name of a song by Deep Purple. I used to like Deep Purple when I was still into music. I liked Deep Purple, but this particular song of theirs, A Gypsy's Kiss, is just terrible. I mean, it just sounds like a banging on the drums, screaming into the microphone and song. It's just really bad. It would be cool if it was kind of a mellow, rock ballad that we could use because it would be out of copyright in our thing, but it's just terrible. So if you ever look up A Gypsy's Kiss, the song, I used to get emails from really angry people who were looking for A Gypsy's Kiss, the song by Deep Purple, and they'd say, every time I look for Gypsy's Kiss, all I get is you guys. What's wrong with you guys? So that's the first thing. The second thing I want to tell you about A Gypsy's Kiss is it's actually an Irish euphemism for urination. So they use it, I guess, when they're standing around the pubs getting drunk, the way the Irish, I shouldn't say that, drinking with their friends, drinking those pints with their friends, and eventually they have to go take a Gypsy's Kiss. So that's another bit of trivia for you. So I'll tell that story in just a little while. All right? Jimmy Fast, I'm trying to go for Forrest tonight as much as I can. Phone lines are open for, I don't know, maybe another 10 minutes. I'll close them off when I start telling stories. Jimmy Fast, you're right. Brian Eagle has the best golden radio voice ever. So let's see, what else have we got? So it's been, you guys have been really good about calling in and talking. So what I wanted to do, one of the things I wanted to do is I've been picking, I don't know if I want to call them theme sound effects for the different people I know that come into our room. So I'm going to play them for you, and then you've heard some of them, and I want you to guess for whom I created this sound effect. All right, ready? So again, some of them you already know, so I'll play the easy ones first that you already know. Okay, so there's one. Here's two, and again, some of these you already know, but I'm just kind of giving you a warm-up. Okay, and here's number 3. You should know this one by now. How's that? Okay, and this one you just heard, of course. Right. Okay, so here's the new one. So you tell me who these are, and you can use their screen names. These are associated with screen names. Okay.
Always look on the bright side of life.
Okay, that's the first one. Then here's the next one. Okay, and then there's this one. This one is easy. If you guys can't get this one, okay, ready? Here it goes. How's that? And then here's the last one. All right. So those are the 4 new ones. that I've got for 4 searchers who do visit our room regularly. So think of who they are, and then maybe I'll finish the show tonight with those folks. All right, with who they are. No, it's K-Pro. It's not Forrest. He doesn't come visit the room. These are all people that come into the room. So we'll talk about. Yeah, see, they're good, huh? Right, Jimmy Fast. Here's Sean Martinez. So, and unfortunately, I think he must be busy because he's not in the room tonight. Usually he's here. So, unless he might be, I wonder if he's on Facebook. Shelley, are you watching Facebook? Because apparently I can't see it on my own. Okay. So, I need a bong rip for Mitzi. Mitzi, what am I going to do with you? What am I going to do with you? Come on, guys. Phone lines are open for another 4 minutes. So if you call in and we start a conversation, that means I delay the a Gypsy's Kiss origin story that much longer because I know I'm going to lose viewers when I start that story. Because okay, so RF Hecky wants me to play the last 4 again. So these are the 4. These are the 4 that. You haven't already that I haven't associated with anyone. So here they go.
Always look on the bright side of life.
Okay, that's the first one. All right. Then this one you guys all already figured out. And then here's the last one. Okay, so at the end of tonight's show at 9 o'clock, I'll reveal who I've associated with each one of those sound effects. So here's RF Hecky. And here's Davio 22. All right, I've got an incoming call, so let's take that. Good evening, searcher. You've reached Toby Eunice. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Brad. I'm from Pagosa Springs, Colorado.
What a beautiful place to be from, Brad. I love Pagosa Springs.
Well, thank you. Just had a quick question tonight.
Sure.
My curiosity is why are you, or why do you and Shelley seem to discount Colorado from your search area?
Oh, so that's a why question. So let me get some clarity on that. What do you think it is about Colorado? Now, I assume that you've taken that personally since you've asked a why question. What do you think about? What do you think it is about Colorado that would cause us to change our opinion from where we're searching now, which is northern New Mexico, to Colorado? And I guess I should tell you, we actually spend, when we're searching our search area, we spend a lot more time in Colorado than we do in New Mexico. But what is it about Colorado that you think we should be more aware of?
Well, I don't know that there's anything in particular. I'm just kind of curious, and it's not only you. It seems to be in the searcher community, a lot of people seem to discount Colorado as a potential solve area for the chest. And I was just curious if you had a particular reason why. Maybe you haven't discounted it completely, but you seem to specifically make your search areas for New Mexico, which I haven't discounted at all.
Right, yeah.
But I didn't know if you had a particular reason for that.
So I think, so the question is in debate, it's called the question for a negative response. And it is not that we are discounting Colorado any more than we are discounting Wyoming or discounting Montana. For us, they are all not New Mexico. That's all it is. So we don't discount Colorado, we don't discount Montana, we don't discount Wyoming. For us, they're just simply not New Mexico. What keeps us in New Mexico are some very simple things, and I'll go through the list. A lot of the people that are in the room have probably heard me say this more than once. Number one, in the book, The Thrill of the Chase, Fenn writes that he hid the treasure somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe. Now, if I were to tell you that I kidnapped your cat, Shelley hates it when I use this example, and I hid your cat somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe, would you go looking in Wyoming or Montana, or Colorado for that matter? That's the first thing. Secondly, when Fenn first started this, he started in 2010. He published 1,000 copies of The Thrill of the Chase, and he planned to sell them out of the Collected Works bookstore in Santa Fe with the expectation that it was going to be purchased by his that they were going to be purchased by his friends and search somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe. So that was the first thing. The third thing is Fenn didn't discover the Rocky Mountains. The Rocky Mountains never came up as a search location prior to 2013. And to this day, Fenn has never said the treasure, and I can say this, Fenn has never said the following quote or any reasonable facsimile thereof. The treasure is in either New Mexico, Colorado, Montana, or Wyoming. He has never said that. He said, look in the Rocky Mountains. Well, the mountains in northern New Mexico are the Rocky Mountains, right? We have Rocky Mountains anyplace else. So it is not, and if you watch Tuesday's program, my partner, Shelley Carney, who has worked on these slides now for 2 whole days, because I forced her to do it, and I didn't force her to do it. I don't want to start that rumor. Because she came up with a really good idea, and I suggested that it was time for her to get up on that horse, of that presentation horse, and do this presentation herself. So if you watch our show on Thursday, we will give you a fourth reason why we include New Mexico, but not to the exclusion of Colorado, Wyoming, or Montana. So it's not about excluding them. It is simply we are including them. We won't be surprised if the treasure is found in Colorado. We won't be surprised if the treasure is found in Wyoming. We won't be surprised if the treasure is found in Montana. We will be surprised if it's us that finds it in one of those 3 states, because we're just not looking there. So we are not specifically including or excluding Colorado any more than the other 2 treasure states. We are simply including New Mexico. And as a matter of fact, you should know by now that both Shelley, Kevin, and I love Colorado. We've spent time looking around the Salida area, Browns Canyon. Shelley and I did a photo trip. We needed some photographs of falls, and we knew that Treasure Falls near Pagosa Springs was one of the most beautiful falls in Colorado, and relatively easy to get to. And then lastly, Shelley convinced me to get into the hot springs at Pagosa, which I finally did, and entertained everybody for 4 hours with stories about the Fenn treasure. So,
well, that's awesome.
So,
well, I do appreciate you guys, and I lived in New Mexico for 17 years before I moved up here a few years ago, and I absolutely believe that it is probably going to be found in New Mexico, but I was just curious as to why that Colorado doesn't seem to be, even on the blogs and the other internet potentials. Colorado seems to be left out more than any other state, and I was just kind of curious as to if there was a particular reason for that.
I would say if it is anything, and this is purely hypothetical, we did an analysis of the writing in The Thrill of the Chase divided by where he talks about where the stories come from. And you can go back and look at this, for that video, because although we got a lot of criticism from the search community about it, that there was all these other things happening, we simply did it on the facts of what's in the book, and we measured it, and it turns out that if you look at the book and you just measure the amount of time spent writing about the various areas, and you exclude My War for Me, which is his period in Vietnam, what the facts show is that he talks about New Mexico the most, and then he talks about Temple, Texas next, and then he talks about his time at Yellowstone last. Colorado is never mentioned in The Thrill of the Chase. And so since the poem is in the book, and since he implies that you should read the book, you would have to work at stretching from Colorado not being in the book to the treasure being hidden in Colorado, except you could say, well, he never mentions it. And I've heard that argument. Because he never mentions Colorado in the book, it must be hidden in Colorado. That's the only offer of that's the only theory I could offer you as the reason that there are a lot of members of the search community not talking about Colorado or not writing about Colorado. For us, it is not that reason. For us, it is that we are in New Mexico, not exclusive of either Colorado, Wyoming, any of Colorado, Wyoming, or Montana.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, Toby, and thank you for your time, and tell Shelley hi from Pagosa Springs. I know she wears Pagosa Springs shirts and hoodies a lot. And
she does.
I appreciate you guys.
She actually bought them that time we were up there.
And next time you guys come up, look me up. I'm part of your community, and we'll get together, have a cup of coffee or something.
Well, we'd like that very much, because we plan to go through that area should K-Pro provide us some of those silver coins. We have a trip planned up north and then back again, 2 different routes that we'll be hiding those coins. So we'll work very hard to get to Pagosa. Do me a favor and send me your contact information to our Gmail address, gypsieskiss@gmail.com.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Thanks a lot.
My pleasure. Thank you for calling in.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so I got some text messages that we got to take before we're gone. David Dow suggests I need one for Cher Strickland. You know what? I do, because when she calls in with that beautiful Southern accent, I always talk to her about it. Hi, Toby. It's Pixie from Maryland. What's my special? Well, Pixie, you could share, of course, the fairy dust, but I'll see if I can find for you. So I've created a monster here. Everybody's going to want their own sound effect. And then Susie says, can you talk more about your own evolution with the chase? Did you start in New Mexico before Too Far to Walk came out? If so, did Too Far to Walk change your search at all? I had been committed to New Mexico to start with, Susie, and there were a couple of there was a story in Too Far to Walk. There were actually 2 stories, each in Too Far to Walk, that caused us the trip to Lander and the trip to Browns Canyon. So those 2 trips came out of Too Far to Walk, or were the result of additional research done, and took us both to through Browns Canyon, north and west of Salida, and then to Sinks Canyon, west of Lander, Wyoming. So yes, that was very good. That's very astute of you. Okay, so let me tell you who the sound effects are for, so that because I'm about to start my story. Okay, so here we go. Hang on. I need to check this right there. Okay, so I'm not going to do the ones that you already know. Okay, so this one is for Brit Chaser, Jono Jones, who is not usually here at this time of night because it's 2 or 3 at this point. It's 3 o'clock in the morning where he is in the UK. So this is for him.
Oh, always look on the bright side of life.
And I did that for two reasons. Number one, that's from Monty Python. And secondly, he is always so darn cheerful. So I thought that would be a good one. This one is for our traveling adventuress, Ramblin' Pam. This one, I really like this one for her. All right. And then this one, of course, as you guys recognize, is for our favorite detective, former detective, Sean Martinez. And then last but not least, and he hasn't heard this, but I think it'll be really fun. So I don't know how many of you know Michael Hool, our friend from Tokyo. He has a bit of a, like, he's very, like, commanding. And he has his ideas. And the last set of messages, he referred to himself as a soul crusher because Anon, I think, was saying how saddened he'll be when somebody finds the treasure. And so I got this one for Michael the next time he walks in the room. So those will be fun. I just, Pam is just my... I thought of her all day today because I went with my friend over to that RV show, and the whole time I was there, I was thinking about how much fun Pam has on her travel. So that's Ramblin' Pam. So Mr. Bryce asks, Toby, why don't you search in Arizona? Because the treasure is not there. That's why. Simple response. Okay, so I'm going to give you all a chance to go do something else because is Bard's Magic in the room? Magic Bard? Bard's Magic? So he's been asking for this all week. So we're about to tell you the story. I'm going to turn the phone lines off. Hang on just a sec. Make sure there's no more questions. So I'll turn the phone lines off. This is the story of a Gypsy's Kiss. All right? And again, you're free to stay here or not. So as many of you know, I feel like I should turn the lights down for this. As many of you know, I have said in the past that my father died when I was 11 years old, and it was a big loss to the family. He left behind a wife and 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter. And of course, it changed all of us. There's no way you get around that. But it changed me a lot. I am the oldest son. The rest of my family is now passed. My father, my mother, my sister, and my 2 brothers are all gone. So I'm the sole remaining survivor of the family. But it all affected us in different ways. And in one of the ways that it affected me is I became a little bit rebellious. And so they tried to send me to seminary. I was going to Catholic schools. I was raised a Catholic, although I don't practice. And so they tried to send me to seminary. I was there for 3 months before they basically threw me out. And then they sent me to, in Santa Fe, there is a highly regarded high school called St. Michael's High School. It is now co-ed, and it's a day school, right? They don't have boarding students. At the time I was growing up, it was an all-boys school, and they had boarding students from all over the United States, actually all over the world, but mostly all over the United States. And generally speaking, what you discovered is those kids were rich kids whose parents had sent them to this school because they were being rebellious. They were troublesome. I fit into that category. Not that I was rich, but I was being troublesome. So my mother agreed with the Christian brothers there to send me to this high school. And I did really, really well. The brothers didn't tolerate rebelliousness, and I had so much fun there with the guys. We started a rock band, and I played football and tennis, and I was on the chess team, et cetera, et cetera. So I was having a real good time there. But these Christian brothers that taught there, their headquarters were in Metairie, Louisiana. It was just north of New Orleans, and they were always talking about New Orleans, and they were always talking about Mardi Gras. And one spring, when I was about 15, I just turned 15. I was a sophomore in high school, And they were just talking about this over and over again. And I decided I wanted to go see what Mardi Gras was all about. So I don't want to say I broke out of the school. One Saturday night, I broke out of the school. I headed north to Abiquiu. I hitchhiked north to Abiquiu because my uncle lived in Abiquiu on some property that the Delgados owned, that my mother's side of the family owned. And he stayed there, and he was the caretaker, but I also knew he was a motorcycle rider. And he had a motorcycle that was a 500 single-cylinder 500 BSA. And so my plan was to steal it and head for Mardi Gras. So I started the process, found the motorcycle, was sneaking it out of the garage, and his German Shepherd dog stopped me. And so he came out the door with a pistol, a Ruger 44 Magnum single action. It's that cowboy looking pistol, which is just huge. And he didn't know who he was dealing with because it was dark, and he pointed the pistol at me. I could tell. And he said, "Stop or I will blow your head off." And with that particular pistol, he could have. He was my uncle, and he was Uncle Carlos. And Uncle Carlos had his own wonderful, adventurous story. He was the guy that rode that motorcycle to Alaska and came home with a bell jar full of nuggets one year. Anyway, so I explained to him what I wanted to do. He gave me his approval. He gave me a leather motorcycle jacket and one of those, Rebel Without a Cause Marlon Brando caps with a little white thing, motorcycle caps. And he filled the saddlebags with food, with beans, cans of beans, and with oil, because this BSA 500 used up oil like it was going out of style, right? And headed on my way. Gave me a map, and at that time there was the interstate that would get me through Texas all the way to Louisiana. So I got on the road at night with a bum headlight. The headlight would flash as you hit bumps because the wires were all loose. But I made it through, and the following morning, by the following morning, I was into Texas, started going through Texas, stopped at the gas station. Every time I stopped, I'd have to add oil to it. There was oil all over the inside of my boots and my jeans. And so that's how bad this BSA 500 was. But we were going, and you could always tell when it was running out of oil because it would start making these puffy sounds. Anyway, so I stopped at a place in Texas. And it was along the side of the road. This was not in a town. It was east of Amarillo. And I stopped at this little hamburger joint, and it had the two windows where you ordered and where you picked up, and you had to kind of lean down. So I got off my motorcycle, and I went to the window, and I leaned down to make an order, and this woman, an older woman, asked what I wanted in a beautiful Texas accent. "How can I help you?" And what I literally stopped talking because her eyes were hazel, almost golden. I don't know if you've ever seen somebody with hazel eyes, but they're almost gold. And in this afternoon light, it was even more pronounced. And so she took my order, and actually I was left speechless for just a second. And then I got my order out, got my hamburger, got my fries, got I think it was a Coca-Cola. Anyway, so I was sitting outside on a picnic table that they had placed, several picnic tables where I could have my hamburger. And she came out to smoke a cigarette. And so she came out, she sat down at the table that I was sitting at. We started talking, and she asked me what I was doing, and I told her. And, she said that was pretty adventurous. And she said, "What are you going to do tonight?" And I had packed it was a pup tent. It was a canvas pup tent. And I told her I was just going to sleep alongside the road, and I had a sleeping bag, et cetera, et cetera. And she said, "Well, why don't you just stay at my place?" And I said, "Well, that's very kind of you." And so I agreed to it. So eventually she closed up, the place closed at about 8 o'clock, and I followed her home. She had an old pickup truck, and we went on these farm to market roads. They're FM roads, farm to market and ranch to market roads in Texas. And I followed her home, and it was basically a small house, well built, well taken care of, and it was kind of in the middle of an area that you imagine was once made for grazing, right? Cattle grazing. So she let me into the house, and she fed me dinner. She made a dinner for us, and then she showed me the room that I was going to sleep in, and it was a men's room. It was a man's room, and I realized because some of the accoutrements were there, it was a relatively young man's room. And I said, "Is this room your son's?" And she said, "Yes, that it was." And I said, "Oh, is he off to college?" And she said, "No, he's off to Vietnam, but he ain't coming back. And so that just broke my heart. But at this point, I couldn't say anything but thank you. And so I took a shower and I got into bed and turned off the lights and had a plan for getting a good night's sleep. Somewhere in the middle of the night, she came into the room that I was in, and she crawled into bed with me. And she was fully clothed, and I had left on my T-shirt and my briefs. Okay, so now you know, Mitzi. And she cuddled up against my back, and she put her arms around me, and she started rubbing my head, and she kept talking, and she was saying things like, "Oh, just be calm, baby boy. Just be calm." She kept calling me baby boy, and I thought she was having this kind of, I don't know, thing going back to her son and missing her son, obviously. And a little while later, she got out of bed, went back to bed. In the morning, I got up, I got dressed. She had made breakfast for us. She gave me a big hug, and I got back on my motorcycle, and I headed for Mardi Gras again. So by the time I got there, Mardi Gras had already started. It was already Monday. It was busy downtown. I made the mistake of driving down to the French Quarter and riding into it, and that was before they had all these restrictions that they do today. You got to remember, this was about 1963, and so at some point, with all the jewelry, all the necklaces, the necklaces that they have were throwing around, and one got caught up in my motorcycle chain, and it caused the motorcycle to stop, and I didn't expect it, so I fell over on my side on the motorcycle. So I was laying there on my side, and these 4 women walked up to me, and they were speaking Cajun French, Cajun Louisianan, and they were kind of laughing and asking me what I was doing. I could tell they were asking me what I was doing. And then the youngest of them said in a French accented English, a Cajun accented English, "What are you doing?" And I explained to her, and they helped me up, and they told me the story, and then they asked me to come with them. Well, they took me out of the French Quarter and into an area at the time was called Algiers. I can't even tell you if Algiers is there anymore. Algiers at the time was a place in which the French Canadians had made their livings in various ways, some of them legal, some of them illegal. It turned out they were part of that illegal trade. They turned out to be 4 prostitutes. The youngest was the one who had helped me up and asked me to come with her. Her name was Mariah. And so Mariah and I decided to go back out and celebrate some Mardi Gras. I explained to her that I'd never done this, and that was the point, that I was going to celebrate Mardi Gras. And so we went all along, because in Algiers they were celebrating their version of Mardi Gras. It wasn't quite as elegant, but it was louder and more fun, and everybody seemed to be enjoying it, and the music was completely different. It was that French Cajun music that was in every bar. At some point, she took me by the hand, and she led me into a place, and she explained to me that she just wanted to do this, and she brought me into a room that was lighted in candles and was covered in red and black drapes. And there was a classic, for lack of a better way to describe this, a classic gypsy fortune teller sitting at a table with a red velvet cover on it. And she had her head in a scarf, and she was old. She looked like my grandma Eunice. That's what she reminded me of. And so she sat down, and she would talk to her in French Canadian Cajun, and then she would talk to me in English. And basically the conversation was that she was going to ask and pay for this gypsy to read my cards and tell me my future and what it was going to be like. And then she would tell me what she was doing. So she laid out these cards. She took a regular deck of cards, not a tarot deck, but a regular deck of cards, and she laid them out in this 4x4 pattern, and she started reading. And I didn't realize it, but there was some sense that what Mariah was doing, what this young woman was doing, was trying to figure out if I was going to play a role in her life. And so she kept asking her these questions, and she would answer them, and I didn't understand that was anything that was going on. And finally I said, can you just tell me what's going on? And she shushed me. She said, "This is important. I can't do a French accent. It was a terrible French accent. But in that French Canadian accent, she said this was important. She was very beautiful. And she was older than I was. And that just made it more attractive to me at the time. Anyway, so at some point, the gypsy said something. And Mariah sat back and was quiet for just a second. Then she looked at me and she said, "Kiss her." And I said, "What? What are you asking me to do?" She said, "She wants you to kiss her." So I said, "Was there any reason?" She said, "It's good luck. Kiss the gypsy." So I stood up, I walked to the other side of the table, I leaned down, and I was just going to give her a little peck on her forehead. It was like kissing my grandma, for God's sakes. So I was just going to lean down and kiss her on the forehead. And she grabbed, when I was leaning down, she reached with her right hand and she grabbed me by the back of my head. She grabbed my hair and she pulled my face down onto hers, and she gave me the tonguiest French kiss I have ever had before or since to that point. And so my first reaction was like, what the hell? I just didn't expect it. And so I didn't try to pull away because I knew that would have been impolite, but I backed away and I was kind of like, ooh, okay, what's going on there? And I sat back down and I looked at Mariah and I said, what's all that about? And she said, she has just given you a life of excitement and adventure. That was her response. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't realize that what I was doing was already experiencing some of that life of excitement and adventure. But the gypsy, through that kiss, had gifted me this, a life, an interesting life. And so I'm going to make this part of the story short because it's not very pretty. We went back to Algiers. By that time, her pimp, whose name was Jean-Luc, who was about my size but very muscular, was looking for the both of us. And when he saw us from across the bar, he started chasing us. And we ran upstairs, and she said, "Let's go to my grandfather's room." So we went to her grandfather's room, and Jean-Luc chased us in there, and he knocked down the door, and her grandfather tried to stop him, and he stabbed him. Jean-Luc stabbed her grandfather. So I started to move in that direction, thinking that there was something I could do with this guy with this knife that looked about 1.5 feet long. And she said no, and she grabbed me by the hand, and she jumped out the window. So I knew at that point we were on the second story, so I thought we were going to take a fall into, a dumpster. Well, on the other side of that was the Mississippi River. So we both fell, she knew what she was doing. We both fell into the Mississippi River. We swam downstream a little bit further. We crossed to the other side of the Mississippi. I don't know if you've ever seen the Mississippi at New Orleans, but it's big, it's wide, there's all kinds of currents and things like this, but she seemed to know what she was doing. We ended up crawling up into a small wooden boat, and then eventually we took that boat and got to further inland up a side river. I don't know, a side thing, an industrial area. From there, she took me to a cemetery. I didn't know at the time, but it was Lafayette Cemetery. And we got there, and I was a good Catholic boy. I hadn't drank, I hadn't smoked anything from cigarettes to marijuana. So we got to Lafayette Cemetery, and she reached into her purse, which had slung around her shoulder, and she had a plastic bag, and in the plastic bag she had the makings of things to make a joint. And so she pulled it out, and she was shivering, and she said, "This will help me." And so she started smoking the joint and getting, progressively more friendly. And I didn't partake of the joint because I'm a good Catholic boy at that point. Rebellious, yes, but a good Catholic boy. And so we had so on the top of that mausoleum we made love, and somewhere after that we dressed and we went to sleep, both shivering and just kind of keeping close to keep warm. And in the morning I woke up, and I was surrounded by, well, I wasn't surrounded. There were a couple of police officers. Mariah was gone. There was a couple of New Orleans police officers, and they were asking me what the hell I was doing. And so I told them as much of the story as I could. They handcuffed me. They took me back to a police station. To this day, I don't know what it was. They kept me there until I was interviewed by their attorney, who, if you may know this name, it was Jim Garrison. He was their attorney, their district attorney. And he came in and he interviewed me. He asked me a bunch of questions, and I tried to explain that this is what I had done. And so he said, okay, they threw me back in jail. And then the following day, I was put on a train and I was sent back to New Mexico. Now, at the time, the train didn't stop in Santa Fe. It stopped in, people pronounce it Lamy, but it's named after an archbishop in Santa Fe, but it's French. So it's actually pronounced Lamy. So we stopped in Lamy, and I was let off the train. My mother was there along with Brother Benjamin, who was the principal of St. Michael's High School. And further back along the train was Uncle Carlos. My mother started slapping me, for lack of a better, like, have you ever embarrassed me like this again? I will tear off your head. And, you know, she was pretty angry. Brother Benjamin was trying to keep her from killing her son. And I looked back at my uncle, and he was 4 or 5 cars down, and he was next to a luggage car. And out from the luggage car rolled a motorcycle. So he got his motorcycle back. So that's the story of the Gypsy's Kiss. But then when I moved to Virginia, I wanted to start boating. I hadn't boated prior to that time. So I bought a beautiful power boat. It was a Sea Ray Sundancer 29 with twin Merc cruisers. And we used to keep it on the Occoquan, which is a river in Northern Virginia that feeds into the Potomac. And it was a beautiful place to be. Not only is Occoquan beautiful, and I kept it in the marina that belonged to the company that had bought it. And when they winterized the boats, they used to take them and they'd put them on these big tractors, and they would lift them up into these protective, garages, right? And they would stack them. And when I named that boat, I wanted to name that boat, and at the time I was married to a woman whose name is Laura. And so I thought, let me name my boat after her. So I called it the Laura Ann. And after I named it, everybody said to me, you're not supposed to name a boat after your wife or girlfriend. It's bad luck. The second season we had that boat, it was on the lower level during winterization, and because of the cold and the weight of the boats above it, 3 boats came crashing down on Laura Ann, completely destroying it. So I got the insurance money. I was protected, and I decided rather than a power boat, which was very expensive, I'd go with a sailboat. So I bought my first used sailboat. It was a Catalina 22. Eventually, what I would do is I would buy a used boat, I would restore it, and then I would sell it, and I would buy a bigger boat. Eventually, after about 4 years, I owned a Cal 30, which is a seaworthy boat. You can actually take it into the ocean. It was a beautiful, and I do this restoration. The first one of those boats was called a Gypsy's Kiss. And as I started traveling all over the Chesapeake Bay with it, I started keeping a blog, and the blog was called a Gypsy's Kiss after the boat. When I moved back here, of course, I didn't have a sailboat. I sold my last sailboat, that Cal 30, before I moved back here. I had a Gypsy's Kiss. I had a gypsyskiss.com, and so we just went with it. So that's the origin story of a Gypsy's Kiss. That's how we got it, and that's why we'll always keep it, because it's good luck. And it leads to adventure. And I have to tell you, I feel like I have led a very interesting and adventurous life. I think that Gypsy's Kiss did it for me, because I really had a wonderful life, and still do. I've got a great partner in Shelley Carney. We get to do fun stuff like look for treasures and make YouTube videos, so we're going to keep doing that. Okay? All right. So that's all I got. And it's 9 o'clock. So I wanted to let you guys know I really appreciate you being in tonight. Thanks for sticking with me for the story of a Gypsy's Kiss. Now you can share it with your family, friends, neighbors, business associates, and social networks. Please don't forget to like this video, because everybody likes it when you like our videos. Share it with your friends and social networks, and we'll grow. And then, of course, if you're not already a subscriber and you want to hear more of these crazy stories, no, we won't tell any more stories. If you want to just join us on our the work that we do all week, we do 3 to 5 live streams and a couple of uploads. So if you subscribe, you will be informed immediately upon the upload or the beginning of that live stream. Yes, Anon, it was my first. Up to that time, I had been in seminary, for God's sake. So, okay, so Bard's Magic, I hope you're happy now. We've had to bore the entire chat room with that story, but I did this for you because I promised, Shelley promised you that I would do it. But that's the origin story. Shelley thinks there's a novel in there somewhere. Sometimes I agree with her, and sometimes I realize that I just don't have the patience to write. Okay, enough questions. Thanks for joining me today. Thanks for the calls. Thanks for, let me see, do I have an outro here? Yeah, I do. Thanks, as usual. I hope it was as much fun for you as it was for me. Look for our lineup on Monday, and then look for some programming beginning Tuesday. And remember, Tuesday is the day that Shelley takes all the research that she did, and she does the presentation, while I will sit silently by and technical direct while she's doing all of that. So that would have to be, there's going to be a lot of questions, because she has a new theory, basically, about why the treasure is absolutely hidden in New Mexico. So I'll leave you with that. And Colorado, please don't take offense. All right? Good night, guys. You take care.